Hey guys, Steven Martinez with The American Dream. I just want to say a big thanks to all our supporters and fans. It's because of you guys that we're able to keep growing. Having said that, please don't forget to follow and subscribe. It means a lot to us. That's what helps us keep growing. And also, I hope you guys enjoy the next episode. Hey guys, welcome back to The American Dream podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, my good friend Brandon Rooks, CEO and founder of Rockstar Capital Group. Thanks for coming, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I know we connected because you actually supported us for our first event. Well, not our first event, the event that we did in June, which thank you, by the way. That means a lot.
Yeah, you bet.
What a lot of people don't realize is that, like these events, obviously, it's capital, right? You need money, and how do you get that? Attendees, sponsors, vendors, all that good stuff. So I do appreciate you believing in us and our team and being involved and continuing to be involved in what we're creating and building. So wanted to say that first. Second off, when we connected, you had a pretty interesting story from the time we met and kind of got to chat a little bit. So for people that don't know Brandon, just kind of take me through, I guess, from childhood to now, just a little brief summary of that.
Grew up very middle class. Dad was a construction worker. Mom was either a waitress or she cleaned houses. So, it was blue collar throughout my entire childhood. Not a lot of money at times, but I'm pretty sure my folks never took anything from the government as a handout. They just worked extra hard. But my mom made my clothes. We'd have to go out and hunt wild berries if we wanted like jam or
Wow.
jelly or some sort of pie or stuff like that. And I learned early on if I wanted a pair of Nikes, I was gonna have to get out and work for them. So I got really good at sales as a kid, and actually would sell door to door out of a catalog, and then I'd go mow lawns and shovel driveways and pick up sticks, anything I could do. And we'd always end up collecting extra berries, and I'd go around to the neighbors and sell all the extra berries that my mom couldn't use. So just kind of grew up that way. Parents divorced at 13. I got moved around a lot as a kid. I have actually lived in 15 states and probably 3 times as many cities.
Wow.
I had to finish my last year of high school on my own because my dad was getting moved again, and I lived with him at the time. So in order to make ends meet, I bussed tables, and I was a male stripper my last year of high school. So
Just casually throwing that in there.
ended up doing that kind of off and on, even while I went into the Navy out of high school, which, by the way, ended up with a GED because I had all these transfers, and I was a half credit short in fine arts, 3 weeks before graduation. And I was already signed up to go into the Navy. So went into the Navy, did 6 years. I'm a combat Desert Storm Navy veteran, did 3 tours in the Persian Gulf.
Wow.
Got out, and I did not want to do what I did anymore. I was an advanced electronic warfare technician operator, so I ran the anti-ship missile defense system.
Wow.
And had a top secret clearance, and got out and went into sales, and it just kind of all blossomed from there, so to speak. So there's obviously a lot more, but that's kind of a recap.
That's a very interesting transition, though, from being essentially in the Navy to sales. And it's very funny because we have a lot of guests that actually have military background, and then they jump into entrepreneurship. What made you kind of do that transition? That's like flipping a coin pretty much.
Just anywhere I worked never really fulfilled me, in achieving more. It was always just the task at hand was just too easy, and I got too bored. I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit since I was a kid. So a regular job just doesn't suit me. And if I'm awake, I'm working. I'm not happy unless I'm doing something and achieving something. But I also started setting goals as a kid. I'd actually write my goals out. I was very goal oriented, and I set goals at that time, early on in my life, that some of them, I made them some pretty long-term goals, and I'm now just starting to achieve some of those today. Wow. We talked a little bit about, I remember when I was 18 years old, because we grew up so poor and never really had anything really nice, and it was a Ford Pinto or, an old, beater Ford Ranger truck that my dad drove or something. I'm like, someday I'm gonna have a 10-car garage and 10 vehicles. I've got 5 cars so far. I'm working on the rest. I've got to build the garage now, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it was just kind of my childhood and those aspirations and dreams of not wanting to be normal, not wanting to struggle, not wanting to only, have the bare minimum or barely get by. I just decided a long time ago to not do what I saw happening around me and figure out how I was going to achieve more. And really the only way I saw that happening was through entrepreneurship. It wasn't going to be through college. It wasn't going to be anything like that. I mean, I could barely get through high school. Not because I wasn't smart enough. It was just boring, you know? And come to find out, I actually have like a 143 IQ, and that's why school just bored the crap out of me, you know? But that entrepreneurial spirit, there's just something about striving for more, achieving more, creating something that benefits others, you know? And fortunately, getting into sales, it was never about me selling something to make money. It was, am I selling something that I'm helping somebody else accomplish what they want, need, or desire? So, and a lot of people have heard me speak before, I've never actually pulled the typical sales routine. Most of the clients just sign or buy with a real simple, easy option close question. I always just present A and C, low end, high end. I'm like, which one of these makes more sense to you? And if they hemmed or hawed, I'm like, did something in the middle kind of work for you? And they, yeah. And I'm like, but they would just pick one or the other. I never went, here's the paper, you know, here, sign here, or, you know, you need to make a decision tonight. You got to do this or you don't get this deal.
I hate that.
I've never pulled the high pressure close.
Same here.
People want to buy, they just don't want to be sold to. And if you figure that out, you have a very long-term successful career. And it's transitioned into, as a highlight, my sales career, it morphed from selling MCI long distance to then selling in-home water treatment systems. I went into the mortgage industry, started selling mortgages. I started helping investors buy investment property. I gave everybody phenomenal deals in mortgages. And then I got headhunted into, you know, larger real estate. And I haven't made a cold call in over 20 years. All I did was just send out letters to all of my past clients and, hey, I'm no longer selling water treatment systems. I'm in the mortgage industry. Great, I need a mortgage. We loved working with you, you know? And then I got into investment real estate. Fantastic, we're looking for some real estate investment deals. You know, I just sent letters out to all my past clients, but because I never burned any bridges and I remembered who they were, and I jotted down little notes about them, what their kids' names were, what looked like in their house, what kind of car they drove, were they a Chiefs fan or were they a Cowboys fan or whatever. And I remembered those little details, and people have just followed me all along the way. So we proudly today run about an $85 million real estate fund, and quickly on our way to $100 million in assets under management. Every single one of our clients is an existing client or a referral.
That's incredible.
Never cold call, no marketing, none.
How important was that, I guess, at the beginning? And this is a great point too, because I love sales, because I think sales and marketing and human psychology falls under the same kind of catalog or umbrella per se. How important was that? How did you learn, I guess, that secret sauce in sales to, you know, have those relationships?
I'd hate to say that it was learned from anything. It was just always kind of natural to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I had taken one of these personality tests when I was with EcoWater, and I was like the number 3 sales rep in the world the 5 years that I was there.
Yeah.
And I never not number 1 or number 2, because the guys that got those positions actually owned the company and pre-sold all their stuff wholesale to new construction homes. I actually door-to-door sold, so I was technically number 1. But it just came natural to be good to people, not be pushy, and I ended up having one of the highest closing ratios in the industry. You know, I broke record after record. I have Wall of Fame record, plaques up at EcoWater still today that have never been broken. And it wasn't so much about achieving those goals. They just set them, and I just always hit them. And they go, "Well, we'll make it bigger. We'll make it bigger, because then Rockstar can't hit this one," And then I did, But it was the only. You're gonna hate this. Everybody's always like, "Read this book, read that book. Well, watch this, follow this, do this." I've read 2 books in my life, 2 self-help books.
Okay, what are they?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill,
Yeah.
and Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And I read those in the Navy.
Okay.
And when I got out of the Navy, I put those principles I learned from those 2 books to work. Plain and simple. I have a ton of books, and I'm sure you know most of the authors yourself. They're in one of our networks, and I've got a ton of books that all these guys have written. Them. I will read them someday when I semi-retire. I'm gonna own them for now, because you're my homie.
You're my boy. It's funny because I have a mini library too of all the books that my friends have wrote. Like, don't ask me if I read them now. But
I don't have time. I'm doing my thing. Right?
My thing. No, but I want to touch a key point actually. So you mentioned you traveled across 15 states, correct, as a child?
I've lived coast to coast and Hawaii.
So I think that's a big component, I would say, in terms of adaptability and being able to adapt. So take me through that and how you applied being adaptable as a kid to business.
Yeah, you had to make friends in a new place all the time.
Uh-huh.
And some of the places, there were people like me, and some of the places I was the minority, you know? And you had to learn to adapt. And I've just always had that, I don't know, that personality I can get along with just about anybody, right? I can talk with a doctor, I can talk to a guy with a PhD, I can talk to a blue collar worker, you know? And people are people, and you just find some commonalities, you do some mirroring traits, you know, you kind of act a little like, or follow a little bit of their, you know, body language and whatever. But I think that's part of it, is all those different moves. I was in a lot of different demographics. You know, I lived in Alamogordo, New Mexico. It was, well, my first stepdad was in the Air Force. When my mom got a divorce, she remarried an Air Force guy, and that moved us to White Sands National Monuments. And then we ended up moving into town into Alamogordo, New Mexico, and I was the minority. There was like 10 white boys in our school, right? Luckily, I made friends with the police chief's son, David Gutierrez, I believe his name was. And so there was a little group of Mexican guys that let me be in their clique, you know. And I remember this is kind of a funny story. I learned to fight as a kid. My dad put me in boxing. He goes, look, you're little. You're probably going to get picked on. You need to learn how to self-defense. So I boxed silver gloves for 2 years and golden gloves for 1 year. And I did that before I had moved to New Mexico. One of these times I was walking from our trailer park that we lived in, you know, they'll make a lot of money in the Air Force. I was walking to town, and I was taking my bike, and I rode my bike, and then I got off, and I was going across a basketball court, and there was a group of Mexican guys there, and they immediately started razzing on me, and they were coming after me, and they threw the basketball at me, and I'm like, ah, shit, here we go. There was 4 of them. I just picked up the bike, and I swung it, and I knocked 2 of them out cold, and then I just went for the biggest guy and started pummeling him. And then I got to school, you know, the other guy was like, okay, I'm done, you know, but I got to school, and Richard Gutierrez, it was Richard Gutierrez. He was Richard, pretty sure. It was a long time ago. And he's like, dude, I already heard about it. He goes, you hang with us. And so it was kind of cool, but you know, I had to learn to defend myself. I was in a place where it was not the norm. And, but then I made a lot of friends. I also had to learn to carry around a knife, and I learned how to throw axes and knives. And they would see me do that because I go down there on my lunch break at school. There was a place right down the street. And people were like, don't mess with Rooks. That boy knows how to throw a knife and an axe. You don't know if he's got one on you, you know? So, but there's been places I live like Hawaii, you know, where they don't like haoles, you know? They don't like us over there for the most part, the natives or the Hawaiians. And it's interesting living in all the places that I've lived in. Most of my life I've lived in the Midwest, you know, Kansas City, Missouri, in and around that market for most of my life, probably about 20 years out of 56. We live in Bentonville, Arkansas now, by the way. Where did I live? Skytook, Oklahoma. Lived in Amarillo, Texas for a while. Of course, California, Oregon, Colorado, Iowa. Iowa's cold. We're never going that far north again. I like it where it's warmer. I don't care if I ever see snow again in my life,
you like
right?
Houston. Houston's nice.
But it did. You're exactly right. It's moving to all those different places, starting a new school all the time, sometimes a new year or mid-year. I was kind of the class clown too. That's a way. That's a way I found my way in. I was the funny guy, you know. So
I think that versatility plays a key component in childhood. It's always interesting because, you know, you see the success, but it always comes down to the mindset. And then when you look at the mindset, it comes down to the childhood, whether it's a rough upbringing or whether the parents were just, you know, super motivating to the kid, or, you know, I guess in this case, you know, moving around and, you know, seeing opportunities and stuff. So I understand the childhood part. And also moving forward, when you were in high school, what made you want to go into, what made you go into, you know, the whole like male dancing industry?
Necessity. Because I had to live that last year of high school on my own. So I had to take over the lease, you know, or my dad was still on the lease, but I had to pay for all the rent, you know, and I had to feed myself. And that's how I didn't want to move. He was moving, and I was like, I'm not moving. I'm going to finish my senior year here. You know, because it was North Kansas City High School. I'd moved there for my junior year, and I was getting ready to move again. I'm like, not my senior year. And I was already signed up to go in the Navy. And I knew how to work. You know, I built houses with my dad and decks, and I knew how to do all kind of woodwork and trim and finish and rough in. You know, and like I said, I bust tables. I picked up whatever, you know, construction work I could, and then I just danced. You know, that was easy. That's just like part-time gigs.
Yeah.
Good money, cash.
I'm picturing the clickbait now. I'm just like a male dancer to 85 million. That's crazy.
It's not the norm. It's just part of my story, right?
Yeah, no, it is. But it's funny too, because I'm sure maybe you learned something within that, some sort of lesson.
No fear. I mean,
perfect example.
You can't have any fear if you're going to jump out there and dance around a G-string in front of, you know, strange women. Which, by the way, you know, in the stripping world, it's a lot different between male strippers and female strippers.
Yeah.
You know, you go into the female club, everybody's all quiet, it's dark, see the sticky little dollar in there. You can't touch anybody. It's not like that with the ladies. Lights on, they're going nuts, they're grabbing at you. It's a different world. Yeah.
I'm sure. I wouldn't know, but I'm sure. I'm assuming, yeah.
We can talk stories after the podcast.
Yeah, that's after hours for that. So moving forward from there, then you decided to go to the Navy, correct? And then
I did, yeah.
And then you
I even danced while I was in the Navy. Whenever I was in port, I'd run private ads. When I was overseas, I'd get behind the bar in the Philippines. I'd start dancing. And then all the European tourists would come watch me, and then other bar owners, you come dance at my bar, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's because more of necessity, because you weren't even getting paid that well.
Oh, you don't get paid crap in the Navy, right? All the Navy guys are like, just hang out with Rooks. You get all the free drinks you want. Yeah. He knows exactly what to do.
So what did the Navy teach you with
Discipline and integrity and honor. You know, I've always been a patriot at heart, and all the men in my family in my past have served in the military. My dad served in the Navy. My grandfather served in the Navy, and I just knew it was something I had to do. I never intended to stay, you know, as a lifer. I do have a younger brother that is a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force still. Wow. He's based over in Oklahoma City, and I think he's been in 33 years now, you know, and that was his thing. I had another brother that went in, my middle brother. He didn't last. I think he actually got booted out early, but that was my... He's had a rough life. You know, it's amazing how all children can turn out so differently in a family. Yeah, right? With the same upbringing. It is all three of my brothers, you know, extremely different.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, the Navy was good for me. And it got me up early in the morning, which I've just continued that. You hear it in our network. It's like we get more accomplished from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. than most people will accomplish in a day. So I still get up early, and you know, it's about accomplishing what you're tasked to do. You know, there are 530 plus investors now that rely on us to be diligent about what we do and make sure that we're constantly giving them a great return and a great investment. And a lot of that discipline comes from the same thing. You know, when I'm on that ship and doing my job, there's a whole ship full of people relying on me to do my job. And I think that's, there's gratitude. There's There's gratification in making sure that you're performing at your best. And that's what it's always been for me. So
you'd be a big advocate on obviously discipline being big, but then also, you know, really being time efficient with your time throughout the day.
For sure. You know, someone posed this question the other day. I know Chaz Wolf, he runs Gathering the Kings, and he had posed a question about, I wish I could remember it right now, but something about how long does it take you to make a decision? And, you know, in your business or what you do, and I posted, it takes 2 minutes. Think about it, assess it, make a decision.
Yeah.
Don't look back.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes you're going to make bad decisions, but you know what? At least make one. Don't hem and haw on it and think about it and dwell over it and ask everybody's opinion, because everybody's got a different opinion, right? Just do it. Learn by example. Learn by actually taking action, you know, just like the books we talked about. So many people read all these books, but they never take action. And then they start getting clogged up with too much information, you know, and they can never actually just dive in and do it. But we were taught in the Navy, this is exactly how you do your job. This is exactly what it takes to accomplish it, you know, and you had to make really quick decisions and reactions. I've been in combat, and I've been staring at, there was one case where we had this, it was a plane from Iran that shot off 2 missiles, and they were coming right up the back of our ship in the convoy that we were running. We were doing oil tanker escorts. And I picked up immediately, and I had a photographic memory. So I was like, boom, I told them exactly what it was. I said, we got 2 of these, we're coming right up our ass. And I recommend I'm gonna fire chaff, and we go, turn 20 degrees starboard. So we did, and we did it. And the sonar guys are like, we only have 1 target. And I'm like, there's 2. There are 2 different frequencies. But it was that fast action, and then getting them ready and doing that, launching chaff, which distracted one of them. Chaff's like a big cloud of aluminum and all that in the sky. And it went off, and then they picked up the 2. And then if you've ever seen the ships and you see that big white dome that's on the side of the ship, they call it looks like R2-D2. They call it a Sea-Whiz, close-in weapon system. Can fire like 3,000 to 5,000 rounds a minute. So all they did was they finally picked it up with that and blew the other one out of the sky. But so you have to make quick decisions. So I learned to make quick decisions early.
That's a good point too, because technically now we're not talking just about a fast decision, but now we're talking about making a fast decision at a high stress level situation.
Oh yeah.
Now, how do you use that in business whenever you're going through something? Or whenever you mess up or you do a mistake? Obviously your business right now is skyrocketing, but I'm sure you had moments where, were you broke before when you were starting your venture?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, what we're doing is never really been done in our industry to the level that we're doing it, which is really exciting. And believe me, there's hiccups all along the way, and there's things that we learn all along the way. But you can make those decisions and they can be wrong, but just own your shit and own it. And if you have investors, get communication out to them. Don't hide behind it. Say, look, this is what we ran into. This is a new experience. Here's how we're tackling it. This is what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Fortunately, it's gotten pretty easy for us because, I created my wealth in physical real estate. Sold, helped people buy investment properties. I started buying investment properties. I ended up raising capital, and then we bought large scale investment properties. And at one point, we were up to close to 500 doors, either managed or owned, by our funds or by me personally. And recently just got out of all of them a couple of years ago. I have 1 property left down in Georgia next to the military college. It's like a student house. And it just kicks out so much money, I just can't let it go. And one little nice tax deduction. But I made my wealth from there. But now what we do is we're like the bank. And our investors invest with us, and they just receive passive income because I lend it to my strategic partners in the Southeast. And what they do is they take raw ground, get it fully shovel ready, permitted, and engineered, meaning the plat's all laid out. The builder knows exactly where all the lot lines are, how many lots it can get on it. There's still no construction done. This is what we call a paper lot. And then my partners sell that to the biggest builders in the country. So we've hit that level of success where now we're dealing with the biggest buyers in the country, and you can't build anything without the dirt first. So we've kind of solidified ourselves in no pun intended, but a ground level opportunity, right?
Yeah.
They get the ground 100% ready for those national builders. And those national builders, when they close on the ground, they can put construction equipment on the ground the very next day and start. And not a lot of people have done that to the scale we've done it. There's usually developers that are in their certain markets. And they'll do 1, 2, 3 pieces of developments, over the course of a year. But we've taken the company from about 5 years ago, and the very first project we did was about a 100-lot townhome project, and raised the money, was all in at $3 million, sold it to Ryan Homes for $6 million.
Nice.
Just dirt. But what happened is when the real estate collapse happened in 2008, a lot of the biggest builders in the country got basically caught with their pants down, had all this ground on their balance sheets, and that hurts their stock prices and their share prices and their performance, right? So a lot of things shifted to where they'll buy shovel-ready permitted ground all day long, but then they usually have to still buy it, go get it engineered and laid out and mapped out for what they do. But my business partner, Lindsay Jarvis, teamed up with Tim Samuels previously from Ryan Homes, and had another business partner, and then they went out and they started hiring some of the top land asset managers in all of the markets in the Southeast.
Wow.
Away from the national builders and said, you come work with us and we'll fund these transactions. We'll get all this stuff put together. You do what you've always done, and then we'll turn around and sell these things to the builders. And, well, long story short, we now have a 56,000 lot pipeline of about $1.5 billion of ground. And a lot of it's come to a head over this last year. It took 4 years to sell $103 million in projects. This year alone, they'll sell $160 million.
That's incredible.
Next year, they'll probably double it. We're shooting for a goal of a 100,000 lot running pipeline and selling 20 to 25,000 lots a year. Let's just say that it's an 8. What is that? How many figures is a billion? Is that 9 or 10?
That's 10. That's 10.
We're moving towards a 10-figure sales business a year.
That's incredible. I think what's impressive too is the fact that you mentioned something that a lot of people underestimate, which is accountability. And I picked up on that, when I was saying, this, just being accountable with your mistakes and just pushing forward. Having said that, when you're dealing with pretty much the highest end, the 1% clientele in this case, how do you deal with that pressure? Because you said you have over 545 investors?
Roughly, right around there.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? That's a lot of investors.
You know what? Our investors are blue-collar guys just like us, mom and pop. We allow people to invest with us with as little as $10,000.
Okay, nice.
And they can invest in their name, LLC, a trust. We can help them convert their IRAs or 401ks from previous companies into self-directed and invest.
Wow.
I'm a blue jeans kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm a blue collar kind of guy. And a lot of our investors are what we call mom and pop, no disrespect. A lot of guys are just in for maybe $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. We've got our 100,000, we've got a handful at 250, we've got a handful at 500, and a handful at 7 figures. But we've never missed a distribution, ever. And we've had multiple profit sharing interest quarters over the past several years.
Beautiful.
Even when a lot of other people have struggled to pay out in their funds and their deals. And it's that accountability, and it's important to us. I will always make sure that these investors are taken care of first. They get paid before we do. And if I got to give up a little bit of my paycheck or a little bit of my management fees to make sure it happens, it happens. Fortunately, we haven't worried about it too much. Now, another thing about that comfort level is all this land that we deal in, it's going to end up being single family homes that are going to be in the price point of $250,000 to $500,000.
Yeah.
So what's most needed in America? And we're mostly in the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, and Texas currently. So we're in the markets that our builders are in. And it's exciting for accountability. They're telling us, we need you in Tennessee, we need you in Alabama, we need you in these other states that they're in. So we have this waiting list, and they're like, we love what you do. You guys do exactly what we need you to do. We're kind of like the land banking guys that get everything ready, keep it off their balance sheets so that when they can be their most productive and have their highest profit margins, if they can just close on the ground and start construction immediately. And so we've made ourselves a viable necessity and a very viable, needed entity in their organizations. We sell to, right now, I believe, like 14 of the top 25 national builders in the country.
Wow.
And something I learned, I talked about that real estate collapse and crash. I lost my ass. Never let my investors lose money, and I had to write a few checks out of my own pocket to make sure my investors didn't lose their principal. That's the integrity and the ethics coming from how I was raised and being in the military. So knock on wood, we got glass. Knock on wood, I've never let an investor lose a dime of their principal in my career.
Wow.
But I've had to write a few checks, and that was the right thing to do for me. But I lost a little bit track of where I was at.
Wait, so moving forward, I guess one of the things that really does impress me is the consistency within this all, because you ran the business. How long has Rockstar Capital Group been in business for?
Technically started it in 2013.
Okay, so roughly around 12 years, almost 12 years. How do you maintain that consistency? Because technically, in essence, obviously you're an owner, an entrepreneur, but technically you're also in sales. How do you maintain that high level energy to be constantly performing?
I don't know.
Every day.
I don't know.
That's a good answer too.
I'd tell you it's cocaine, but it's not. I don't do drugs. I do drink 2 Rockstars every day, sugar-free or OG form. Maybe that's it, you know.
Could be that, yeah.
I mean, I got to drink the Rockstar. I got the name, right?
But what's the drive? Is it maybe family, kids? Is it wanting more? Well, you have it all too, so it's kind of like, what more is there?
Commitment to my investors. Remember, most of my investors have just been with us for years. I've helped a lot of our investors retire early.
Wow.
And ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And I think that's what drives me, is I'm my best when I'm serving my investors and my family, right?
Beautiful.
And we're building a legacy business. Rockstar Capital Group is a family business.
Yep.
My youngest son is here with me. He's our investor relations director, Dylan Rooks, high achiever, entrepreneur himself.
That's awesome.
Both of my sister-in-laws work for me in the backside, admin. I hired my wife's best friend that she's known longer than we've been married, and we were married 29 years, November 4th, just the other day, by the way. And but she's like a sister.
Yeah.
And we brought her out from Arizona, and she'd worked for national accounts for Discount Tire. So they run kind of the admin side, and I've got a couple other kids that are slowly working, you know, I'm working them into the business as well. It's a family legacy business. I'm setting up a business that will run long after I'm done. And so I have to be at my best. I have to make sure that we're always striving to create the best systems and processes and, you know, find out what software works, how do we use automation, how do we keep our costs down so that we deliver better returns to our investors. You know, that's a lot of it. I could go out and be flashy and buy more expensive homes. And when I take 10-car garage, I'm not doing $350,000, you know, McLarens. You saw my picture of my last one. I paid $23,000 for a 55 T-Bird. You know,
it's beautiful.
That's the kind of stuff I like, right?
Yeah,
so it's not like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I got a few other things that you've seen that I collect or I invest in, you know, but I do it for my family. I do it for my investors, and I do it for the name. I got the nickname Rockstar about 25 years ago, and maybe it's the nickname that's just kept me so motivated and driven. I kind of have a reputation I got to live up to.
I love that. Yeah.
Rockstar's tired. I'm a little bit tired. That's why I want to turn it over to this younger,
I hope you're ready,
younger
brother.
mini me here soon. Yeah.
So you mentioned your wife, and I always like to touch base on that for the entrepreneurs that are married. How important has she been through the whole trajectory of it all?
I would not. We would not have what we have without my wife.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
If I didn't have her support and her understanding that I'm a type A personality that's extremely driven and motivated, she's so laid back. She's so quiet. She's not I always say she's not your typical girl, which is why I married her.
Yeah.
She's not high maintenance. She doesn't have to go get, you know, she doesn't have to have $3,000 Gucci bags and go get her hair done and, you know, all that stuff and go to massage. She'll shop at Kohl's and Gordman's and, you know, she likes the simple things in life. She loves being at home, taking care of our 3 dogs. She's fine with me to travel and do all this stuff. I'm like, we're going to Key West. Do you want to go? No, not really. I'm like, well, okay, wait. You're going to Key West this time.
Yeah,
you know,
you'll like it then.
I make her go every now and then, but as long as I take her to a beach somewhere about 2 to 3 weeks out of the year, she's happy, you know. But I would not have what I have without her, because just absolutely an amazing woman and someone to be able to put up with that. You know, a wife that doesn't support you as an entrepreneur can wreck your world. And you got to start all over from scratch. And so we've been very fortunate. Together over 30 years, married 29. And we always joke about, we got through, you know, the 2 years, the 7-year itch, the 13-year bad omen, which I've seen a lot of divorces at 13.
Wow, really?
Like, I said, yeah, a lot. And a lot in my family. And then we're like, we're good. We're past that 13. And then someone we know gets divorced at 20 years, like, oh my God, now we got to make it to 21, you know? And we made it to 21. We're like, yeah. And then we're like, we're in the clear. And then someone we know get divorced at 25 years. I'm like,
but what do you think the secret's there? I love talking about entrepreneurship too, but I think, the reality of life is that most of us have a partner or want a partner. What's the secret there to having such a long relationship?
Love them. You fell in love with them at some point in time.
Yeah,
and there was something you loved about them. And we all change over time.
Yeah.
Just always remember why you fell in love, you know, and why you became a unit, and the vows that we made. to each other. Accept them for who they are. Don't try to change them. That happens so many times in relationships from what I can see is the marriage gets there and then one of them tries to change the other. You know, it's like, matter of fact, it's funny because when I met her, I told her, I said, look, being a male dancer, which she knew, I'm like, I've been with a lot of girls and y'all a little bit crazy and y'all got skeletons in your closet. So let's just date till it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and then that way if we decide to split off, we're good. And she just kind of looked at me and just kind of smiled. And we were dating for over a year and I never looked at her cross-eyed. We've never even had a fight till this day.
Wow.
But I just hit a point one day, I was walking out of the room, she said something cute, I turned around, I'm like, I love you. And I'm like, oh crap, what happened? But it was when I wasn't looking, I found her.
Yeah.
I love her for who she is.
Beautiful.
I don't want to change her. You know, she's changed along the way. Nothing bad. You know, and I've changed along the way and she accepts that. We were that opposites attract that worked out and was a success story. So,
and being adaptable too in that scenario too, from childhood traveling, you know, understanding that personalities shift and change and you being so adaptable to that.
Definitely.
I think so.
Just go with the flow, man.
Yeah.
Half the time people worry about shit they really shouldn't worry about. You know?
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many people that get focused on what could happen or what does, you know, it's like deal with it if it happens, you know, and deal with it calmly. You know, have a level head. She would, early on, she would just write me a letter on how she felt. I'm like, okay. That was how she addressed what was concerning her. And it was just, this is how it's made me feel. I'm like, okay, that's good because, you know, I read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus twice. I don't understand how men and women ever live together, to be honest with you. If you read that book, it's a book.
Oh, man,
yeah.
I heard it.
I wouldn't suggest reading it because it might cause some people to get divorced. Like, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to be able to live with this woman.
Wow.
Men and women just think differently. You know?
That's very true.
We think very differently.
That's very true. And
that's okay, right? It's just like what happened last night. We won't get into it, but very big part of the country feels differently, right?
Thank God.
There's some upset people today. There's some happy people today. Life goes on.
Yeah.
Let's deal with it. Okay, what's next? Here's what we're going to deal with, you know? Make the best of it. You know, it's just, life can be amazing or it can be a struggle. It's all about the choices we make every day when we wake up. How are we going to tackle the day? What are we going to do? Are we going to be productive? Are we going to do something more? Do we constantly challenge ourselves? Stop getting in a level of comfort. You know, I never want to be comfortable. I want to be successful, but I always want to know what's next. What can I accomplish? What can I achieve? How can I grow this? How can I make this bigger? And I think that is what drives me, is I'm just not happy with complacency. Yeah. I could never work a 9-to-5 job. God, I could never do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go nuts. Working 9-to-5, get home, have your routine, watch a certain sport, you know, do this, do that. I don't watch sports. That's the conversations I miss out on in a new group of people. Get around a bunch of guys. They're all talking sports and stats and all this stuff. Hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even watch it. You don't watch sports? What's wrong? Are you not a man? And I'm like, I am, but I just rather work and make money.
There you go. I'm the same way. I don't watch Netflix. I don't watch TV, movies. Dude, straight business, good conversations, man. That's the way to do it.
Life is fun, right?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Life is fun. You have accomplished a lot. And you know what? And one of the reasons I love it, American Dream. I mean, that's how this country started. And it's still possible today. You can achieve whatever you set your mind to. I'm proof of that.
Yeah, you
I
are.
mean, good Lord. And you just have to decide to do it. Decide to be better. Decide to strive for more. You know, I tell people, like, what's your motto? I says, it's the D's, man. It's the desire, the dream, the drive, the discipline, the dedication, determination. You know, it's those things. If you just kind of remember that every single day, what am I going to accomplish? I keep this notepad beside my desk. And every time something comes up that I got to accomplish, I write it on that notepad. And at the end of the day, some of those things got knocked out. I knock it out and I rewrite that list. So the next day I've got room for more. Some days it gets into 2 pages. College ruled, 32 lines. I'm like, when it starts to be pushing 70, I'm like, oh crap, I got to get busy. My list is getting too big, you know? So And I'm the same way with my emails. Like, if it's in my inbox, it's got to be tackled. I tackle it, I answer it, and if I've answered it and I've done everything I'm supposed to do, I delete it.
Do you have OCD?
I have OCD
Me
like
too.
a mother. Like a mother.
Dude, you need to see like everything. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I understand. You're speaking my language now.
But that's how I handle it.
Yeah, me
and
too.
if I handle it and I did what I'm supposed to do and I delete it, then if it comes back, then they still need answers or still needs, but I did what I was supposed to do. I do not like my inbox to get more than 50. If it's started to creep into 50, that means I have to go into the second page. That means I'm missing stuff. So
I agree.
Again, it's just having those goals and tasks, and part of it's my email, part of it's my pad of paper.
I love that. I know, unfortunately, we're getting close to the time now, but I guess for any final remarks, closing statements, for any young entrepreneur, that's trying to, or, maybe they were in your situation or as a child, or they're going through, hard stuff and they want to make it in life, what would be your final closing?
Get around other successful people, man. You might be running in a circle that you might never achieve anything great or out of the norm. I love all my family, but there's a lot of my family that I rarely ever talk to or see because they just have a negative attitude, right? Get around others that achieve success. Find something that's a passion for you, something you genuinely have interest in. There's ways to make money all over the place. There's all kinds of opportunities that are out there. Have a dream, decide what it's going to take to achieve that dream, and just start taking actionable goals every day to get there. Success is not going to come overnight. I think that's part of the problem that I see is everybody just wants that overnight success, that instant gratification. Man, I didn't get here overnight, that's for sure. And I never was born with a silver spoon. But I've stayed true to my ethics, my integrity, and my work discipline. That's the thing I learned from my parents. Hard work. Right now, go into the fields that people don't want to do. Like HVAC and welding and, manual. They pay really well because nobody ever wants to do it anymore.
That's true.
And do a side hustle. Have a side hustle. Your side hustle will eventually take over your full-time gig.
That's a great point.
So just get around others that are successful. A lot of us want to help others have the same success we do.
We
right?
want to see you win. Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of times we'll coach and mentor for free if we have time.
That's true.
And see what circle you run in. Is there some bad energy? Is there some people holding you back? Is there some people that not supporting you 100%? I hate to say it, but you might have to cut some people off, if you want to achieve the American dream. And
brother, thank you, man. That was beautiful. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this one. I'll see you guys in the next one.